Guy from Alabama grad he's operating about 17 pounds, and you're at 2 pounds now. Well, actually, is this a fair comparison, right? I gave him a power grip, I gave him a pinch grip. When we do pinches, it's much more stressful. It takes much less of a percentage. Now, I've taken out the slides in here that have the graphs of this, but the higher the percentage of your maximum voluntary contraction, the shorter amount of time you could do it. The higher the percentage of your maximum aerobic capacity is intuitive, the longer my recovery is going to have to be. Most people working, for example, in a lifting boxes, are we worried about the energy demands, or are we worried about periodic heavy boxes affecting them? In some cases, the boxes never lift way over a certain amount, but they're moving them so quickly they fatigue. Now they're more likely maybe to have an injury. So this is named after my uncle. Anybody that is foreign that doesn't know about pulling fingers on the bus, ask about this. Ask somebody, an American, when you pull your uncle's finger, what happens, okay? That's your assignment for the bus. But I want everybody to do this as audience participation. Grab your finger and squeeze it, right? And you can squeeze it pretty hard, you can hurt it. This guy's pretty strong. I'm not responsible if you hurt yourself, if you squeeze it too hard. Now flex the wrist and try to bend it. The one that's grabbing, flex it. Can you grab it as well? What's happening? Your end effector output goes way down. You have to take a lot more force. Most of what's squeezing my hand are the muscles in my forearm. My carpal tunnel is bone, 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 and a little ligament like the size of a Band-Aid right here. Those 9 flexor tendons go in here. When I fold, I'm bending over the edge here. It's very inefficient. So like when we talk about optimal postures and standing up straight and doing these things, Mom was right about posture and these things. It puts you at a mechanical advantage. In fact, if you pass around this gauge, you can see when you squeeze it, if you try to bend your wrist, then the amount of output you get goes down pretty markedly. So the gist here is just learning about postures, learning about biomechanics. I like teaching workers basic ergonomics, very basic with teeter-totters. We'll get to that in a minute. They get it, and then they can apply these things, and they can help suggest improvements to jobs and things. Part of the problem with cumulative trauma disorders and trying to study these is that the disorders are cumulative. There's a temporal dissonance between when they happen, and it's always that, hey, the guy just picked the pen up, he hurt his back. It wasn't picking up the pen, it was everything else he did up to picking up that pen. The proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. So, also thresholds for reporting dependent individuals, different cultures. And life is a confounder. Life is a contact sport. And there's other things going on. People playing in a softball league or whatever, getting a new jet ski, and they come in on Monday morning and their back is sore. So we know we've got physical risk factors. We've got, and when Kevin was talking about too deep and all this, and I've been to warehouses where it goes too deep and they're picking and they don't have a chance to go in and pull it out close, and now the guy's bent over and he's in a constrained posture lifting. Much, much more difficult to do that. Lots of twisting. Here's a manual palletizing, probably order picking there from a Coca-Cola plant, looks like. And then luggage. But they're fixing that. How are they fixing this? By making it so damn expensive to take luggage that they're not having to lift that much. And now everybody's carrying their own on. They've done the equivalent with fees of putting in the self-checkout at the grocery store. They've transferred that work to you. And everybody's fighting to get all their luggage in and all that sort of thing. Here's someone who has virtually every risk factor. Here's a guy that has failure to apply common sense risk factors. And when that box hits the top of that thing, he'll get an even bigger surprise. So one of the things I like to do is just throw in a slide every once in a while just to kind of bring people back, like, hey, wow. And then my students, if I put enough funny ones in, try to make them related enough to the material. They do pay attention. It kind of brings them back. I'll throw in things like this. You've got to understand your system. Here's a manual handling system where they understood how to set the parking brake, but not how to unset it. Like most ergonomics, it flows downhill. The end user gets the raw deal. The guy actually implements the raw deal. I encourage you guys to stop and ask questions. One of the things I'll say at the end, the art of ergonomics. And I do a lot of manufacturing type ergonomics, assembly line ergonomics. To the extent that I can safely, I ask to do every job in every plant I go to. I've been to poultry plants, I've pulled gizzards, done live hang, I've done all these things. Except the USDA, the last little whatever. And some jobs look harder than they are, and other jobs look easy. Pulling gizzards, that's no fun. That is a crappy job. And you get a sense for these things. And to go out, one thing that John Deere, one of my favorite companies with respect to safety, is every year their engineers spend a week on the lines making product with the regular workers. And when they go to design something, they're like, I can't believe I had this guy doing this. And they go back and they fix it. And I think to the extent that you can, getting in a warehouse and actually, you go pick an order. Or have a student pick an order, or you see how hard it is, and see what some of these constraints are. So some major human factors concepts that I want to kind of hit with this are visibility. Think of all your senses, not just vision. Feedback. And if you don't understand how important feedback is, just think the next time you call, customer service and they put you on hold. If they're not playing that annoying music, you're even more mad because you think they hung up on me. But we need feedback. Natural mapping says things are where I expect them to be. Think of your stove. It's a classic example where you got 4 burners here and you got 4 things this way. You got a 50-50 shot if you're not reading everything, right? You're like, these 2 are for the left, these 2 are for the right. How many people have ever lit like a paper plate on fire, a rag or something, or stared at the water waiting for it to boil and the other burner's glowing and it's in the wrong? That's just bad human factors. The idea of operational environments. Being aware, like we mentioned, cold and lifting. And what are our restrictions? What are we asking our workers to do? Features versus procedures. Features are things that kind of take care of themselves, like the airbag goes off. Procedures are things I have to do, I have to follow to be safe. As safety guys, we prefer these kind of automatic things, as long as they're not being overridden, right? And then communication's always taking place. Be careful the message you're sending. When you do a tour, you go out with the plant managers. The plant manager's tied just wagging around, or is it tucked in? Is jewelry off the plant manager? Watches tied to belts and things like that. Whatever the safety policy, are they following it? Because if they don't follow it, the workers won't. And examples I like to show of that, what message is being sent. Here's a guy putting up a safety poster, no fall protection. This one's even better. Talk about manual material handling. He's on the pallet just, kicking the poster on there. That would be, if he survives the fall, he'll be arrested by the irony police at the bottom because, what message is being sent? Keep aisles clear of, I guess I'm assuming pallets. Do not stack or place other freight on top of this, I guess, unless it's the same tank. I don't know, maybe. Maybe it's okay, I don't know. But it's probably not. Here's a lack of enforcement is also a message. This is like a Lowe's or Home Depot type store. We've got Costco's, we've got Sam's Clubs. We have active warehouses that people go into. And, I think the control, some of them are better than others. I've been to some where they're got the guy and they're whistling and doing all kinds of things and cones are out. But I've been to other places where people are just roaming around and they got a forklift on the other side lifting stuff up. And each of their eaches isn't exactly put on to the same level that a distribution center might be at some of these places. So other things with human factors, just kind of quickly, is information is defined as a reduction of uncertainty. The more surprising something is, the more information it takes, the longer it takes to process. So if I told you that Dr. Smith, who's not here, Dr. Smith is a mixed martial arts fighter, and she's going to fight this Rampage Jackson or whatever, you'd be like, whoa, wow, what are faculty meetings like? You just got a lot of information. If I told you that Auburn played Bob's College in a box or something and they won like 70-0, and you're like, yeah, that's not information. But think about it. When a team beats someone they're not supposed to, when Toledo beat Penn State, what was the headline? Holy Toledo. So information takes time. We can only remember about 7 plus or minus 2 things at a time in our short-term memory. I was talking with some people at lunch. Dorian, you remember we talked about these audible systems, and they're telling you what to do. And some people play super fast, and they can move a little faster. And the argument is that they can do that because they don't need to retain that information. Because they don't care that each was moved, they're on to the next one. As long as the order gets filled, they're okay. And I was telling him I sometimes listen to podcasts, and I play them at double speed because you could do that on an iPod. And then my son will like to listen to them, so I get in the car with him, I'll slow it down to normal speed, and it's just, and I can't even understand it. Now, I don't know how much I'm retaining, but he asked me, he said, well, how much you retain? I said, well, if I really want to know, I'll go back and play it again slow, if it's something that's interesting to me. So it's almost like I'm just filtering them. It's like my bandwidth with the overload here. It's ADD, it's HDAD, high definition attention deficit. So the bottom line, are we overloading people? We want to minimize surprises so people can process things quickly. An example of visibility I like to use, I went to the beach. My daughter's 10. She had we bought a bucket and a shovel. It was sand colored. I said, this is stupid. She said, why? I said, because people are going to lose them. So we found 3 more while we were at the beach, because they sell the thing right down the street. Here's an example of visibility and modality compatibility. If Dorian mentioned very quiet warehouse, most aren't. It's very noisy, so that's why we have a flashing strobe so that we can see. That's why in these classrooms we have a flashing strobe. If someone has a hearing impairment, they know the fire alarm's gone off. Also, and a lot of people don't realize this, but when it stays flashing, that means don't come in. They've turned the alarm off so the firefighters can communicate, but you don't go in until that's off. But we never, safety guys are notoriously bad at communicating what we're supposed to do, right? How many people have ever had a fire drill and as soon as the alarm's off and they head back in, I got things to do. But that's why that works. If I have a set of forklifts and I get a new one in that has different controls, what might happen? What do we expect will happen?
The adoption rate of being productive for using it is a week, 2 weeks.
It's going to take a while to become accustomed to it, but we might expect to see more errors. And depending on the stress we put on them and how fast we're pushing them, if they have time to ramp up, that's one thing. If we're asking them to, when we're in a jam, if we're stressed, we revert to our population stereotype. I was in a facility where a guy had a green stop button and a red start button. He explained it to me like, red means danger, and machine's on, it's dangerous. Green is safe. I said, you know what, dude, if you're getting pulled in that machine, you're going to be hitting that red button like you're on a game show trying to win. Because that's what we do. And, this was too many war stories there, but I have to tell you this. It was a dairy, and I was walking down, and I'm taking notes. I should have been taking notes on the staircase. He's in front of me at the last second. He just tilts his head to the side, and I look up, and there's a light bulb and 2 bare wires, look like baling wire or something like this. And I was like writing it. I went, whoa! And I'm not even that flexible, and I just kind of limboed under this. I said, that's a hazard. He said, only if you touch it. So different perspectives here. So here's an example. I want everybody to take your right foot, say, doesn't matter which foot, pick a foot, and turn it clockwise. Now take your finger and draw a 6 while you're doing that. Okay, so what happens? Yeah, so one of them is going to now there's always one guy that can do it. I can do it. Well, we all hate you. Don't tell us, because none of us can do it. So the idea is, are you asking people to do something that goes against what's natural? That's the essence of human factors. So think about what are their stereotypes, what are their expectations? Do we have green stop signs and things like this? We go against these things at our peril. So we just want to be careful. Now, the other thing, too, is that with physical risk factors, they can often result in disabling injuries, but they don't usually kill us. Cognitive risk factors don't usually result in the disabling injuries, but in some cases we can lose the whole system. Now, here's an example of a system loss. Not a big deal.